Welcome back to Give 'em Truth Ministries, Part 6.
Wow.
Part 6. Just seems like we were doing Part 1 yesterday.
It's not been too long.
It's been about 6
weeks,
about 6
maybe.
weeks, yeah. I don't know, it's been a kind of a long story, and it is kind of winding down. I think I said we were halfway through it last time, and I got to thinking, I'm like, no, we're kind of winding down a little bit. We're getting to the end of the story. And so I would say this one and maybe one more, at least for this section of story. And I guess the story is actually still continuing, so maybe in 20 years we'll come back and do,
And we're leaving out a lot of details. We're just hitting the highlights for y'all.
We'll do like the Star Wars thing. We'll do like a prequel and come back or something. Now, so I guess last time we ended off with mass communication and how that story ended, how we went from Pro Christ to mass communication and then the name change and then the things we did as mass communication, and even tossed around the possibility of maybe finishing up an album, which we haven't really talked about this week too much. Everybody's been kind of busy with life.
It's still out there. That's why we say it's in the air.
It's a toss-up right now. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff already kind of done. We just probably need to really redo it and remix it and stuff like that and make it sound right, sound the way it's supposed to. But
when you gonna give them some samples?
Not today.
They said they was wanting some samples now because you done told them.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do it sometime.
I'll just drop those videos.
I'll try to do it at the end of the series, I guess, and we'll figure that out. We'll throw something on there, and I had some other ideas.
Just in case any of you actually ever really care what we sounded like, I'm just saying.
Probably don't. But
Probably don't.
It wasn't that great, but
well, the newer stuff wasn't bad. It was 2010 we recorded that stuff, but.
Yeah, maybe we throw some of them on there too. But anyway, so
you're talking about the old stuff. You talking about 06?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, if y'all remember back, I guess towards the beginning, of this series that we talked about, how we were compared from at St. John's Praise and Worship Center, right?
Mm-hmm.
They compared me and Trenton to Paul and Barnabas. Now, we've always said that story is it kind of relates to us. It doesn't completely relate to us because we never really had this huge fight where Trent went one way and I went another way. But in a sense, the whole Paul and Barnabas thing, how they split up and one of them went one direction, one of them kind of went another. They kind of went in separate ways or whatever and did separate things. That's kind of what happened to us. I don't really know the year, but you could see it kind of start to happen shortly after the kids were born, I guess. We did a few shows here and there. I started getting really more into youth ministry, I guess, like in a church setting, not like out in the world or whatever. At the church that I'm at now, I started working with the youth a little bit more. And I think at that same time, Trenton was already kind of feeling the call that it was maybe time to go to a different church, because that's about the same time that you went to the Rock, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Guy called me to go to the Rock.
So, and that was about the same time that I was laid off from work. And I think I'm trying to remember, I was asked to start working with the youth on Wednesday nights and being the youth leader. And that went on for about 9 months that I was steadily doing the youth ministry on Wednesdays and Sundays and things like that. And then I ended up having to go back to work, and that opened up a whole new complication of things. But
now we still do. I know we at least booked us for a few shows when I started youth pastoring over there. So
yeah, I remember doing a show using the little place there on the
storefront.
Yeah,
and then we went to the old library and did some shows there. And
I remember I had him. We did a youth rally at my church, and I had you come, and I think that was where Ministry did the concert at my church.
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, that was
that
was a while back. But yeah, that was a good show. But anyway, yeah, we kind of ended up doing separate things. I mean, we were kind of doing the same thing, but he kind of went. He just kind of went to this church, and I kind of stayed at the church I was at. And at the time, I guess I couldn't necessarily see it. I don't want to speak for you, but I think God was already working. And it wasn't that he was necessarily trying to split up a ministry or anything, but I think in a sense he was. Because he could see, or God knew what he wanted for my life. God knew what he wanted for Trenton's life.
That's Brett that keeps checking the screen.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry about that.
Because he pointed it out the first time when I did it. Just saying.
So I think what was happening was God was calling me one direction, and God was maybe calling Trenton another direction. And we just kind of started branching apart. I mean, the friendship or nothing didn't really break up. We didn't really have any problems in that area, I don't guess. I mean, everybody has arguments and fights over different things or whatever, but it wasn't nothing like where we separated and went one. He went one direction, I went another direction. But I'm gonna let him talk now because I think where things really started to probably change is whenever or more so change is whenever you started you were driving to Union University. So kind of maybe tell that story a little bit and how y'all moved out there briefly, and then we'll go from there.
Well, like we talked in the first show, I just wanted to touch on it a little bit because I knew we'd get to this. First, I want to say that we did do a show, me, you, Staff, and Trey, and maybe even, I don't know if Richard was there that night. I think Richard might have been there that night. All did a show at the Rock. It was right after I started as youth pastor. They had their first youth night, and and that was the funnest concert I think we ever did. Because we was just piggybacking off of each other, and it was awesome because we was rapping with Staff D, we was rapping with Ministry, we was rapping together.
Oh yeah, I kind of vaguely remember.
We would step to the front, whoever was leading the song, and then everybody else would just kind of back them up and help keep getting the crowd hype. It meant good to me. I loved it. So it was fun. I think it was the most fun I had had in years at that point, doing show, because I mean, it just felt good to be on the stage with brothers, and we all were getting the crowd into it. That was fun. So, but that was about the time I took over as youth pastor at the Rock International Ministries in Jackson, Missouri. I felt that God had pulled me in that direction. I didn't even know if they were seeking a youth pastor, but I kind of felt in my spirit that God was saying, hey, I need you to go be the youth pastor over here. So, and when I got there, I don't think I ever saw him as my pastor, but I felt like I was there to help him build a ministry. And I think the relationship we built with kids, we were there about 2 years. We went from about 10 kids, which were mostly younger kids. I'm saying 10 and 12-year-olds were their youth at that point because there wasn't a whole lot going on. To about 40 kids in that 2-year span. We would never have them all there at once. Generally, we'd probably average, when we started doing our youth nights, we started a curriculum type thing, and there was probably about 32 kids a night. So about 8 of them didn't show up. And it was rotated, so it wasn't always the same 8. So each week, it would rotate out. We'd probably get about 32 kids out, and it was awesome. We were doing lock-ins, we were doing things, and it was a ministry. It was building a ministry, because I could sense that these kids were not getting the love they needed at home, weren't necessarily getting the love they needed other places either. And I think us being able to build into them and sow into them was a big encouragement for those kids. Not to mention there was organization. We was able to minister to them. We'd have them pull us to the side. I mean, stuff was happening. I mean, big things were happening. And then I got the other call. Basically what had happened after that 2 years, I approached Pastor White at that time of that church, and I let him know that I feel like I'm going to be taking a sabbatical, and I gave him about a 4 months notice. I was like, we'll wait till such and such date, and I'll take a month or two sabbatical because I feel like God's trying to tell me something, but I don't know what it is at this point. I need some time away to be able to reflect on what it is God is trying to tell me to do, because I could just sense in my spirit there was another move coming. I didn't know it was an actual move at that point, but it was another move coming. The guy was getting ready to do a transition in my own ministry, my wife's ministry, so we did. I think it was like March 4th. It seems like was my last day there. Took a couple of months off, and during that couple of months, I believe it was it may have been sooner than that, so it might have been like February. Seemed like it was like February. I was working at Signature Packaging at the time with Trevon Alfred. Shouts out, Trey, if you're listening. But, and God gave me a drawing. And at this point, that's all it was a drawing. It was just a drawing of a church. It was shaped like a cross, because I just started drawing and, shaping stuff together. And the next thing I knew, it was a ministry that I had been drawing on this paper. And I'm like, well, isn't that interesting? So I showed it to Trey, who happened to be on break at this point, because at this point, you got to understand, I had told God I would never be a pastor. I was like, you can use me to preach, but I cannot deal with people.
You get to tell God what you're going to do, huh? That was your first mistake.
But at the same time, I remember when I first got called to ministry, before I got called to ministry, telling God I'd never preach. So, and then he used me to preach. So it's like anytime you think you're gonna tell God what you're not gonna do, if he's called you to do it, guess what? He's gonna make it happen one way or another. So drawing up this church, I'm like, really? Okay, this is just a building. And I showed it to Trey, and we started talking about the ministry. And there was other people coming into break at that time, and we were looking at it, and people were asking, hey, what's that? What's that? And I'm just like, I don't know. I'd like to see it happening in about 10 years, though. So we'll see 10 years from that point if something's going on like that. But basically, there was businesses involved. There was the church involved in the drawing. Without describing it too much, there was a ministry that was happening. And I had no idea that it was even going to be possible to create this type of ministry, because I had never been in a church that did the type of ministry that I was trying to approach, trying to get done. I mean, I had been to youth encounters, I had been to different things as a youth, and seeing, videos, different things going on, and, my mind's going, man, it'd be cool to have a sermon intro, maybe get something, do some topics and stuff like that, get people to serve and be on the team and be helping me greet and just have a powerful worship session and all this, and just be, and I'm like, but yeah, God, I've never seen this happen in a church. There's no way. So shortly after that, God called me to Union University. I felt it was time to finish my degree. So and a door opened, and I'm telling you, when the door opened, within 2 weeks, I was starting school. So it was crazy how fast it went. But within 2 weeks, I was driving a 3-hour drive down and then 3 hours back. So 6 hours a day. On Monday nights, I was driving to Tennessee, and I was driving back. So I'd get home, I'd leave, right after work, get down there about time for class, and then I'd get home about 1:30, 2 o'clock, and they'd put me on evening shift the next day so that I could actually sleep from the drive home. And I remember there was lots of nights I was trying to fall asleep. I don't know, God kept me awake. God got me home. I know that. But so at that point, and then, I was like, well, if God opens the door, we'll move that way. And I knew that was crazy talk to my wife at that point, because she had never been that far from home. So, and I hadn't either, let's be honest. We went to Liberty for 2 weeks and I was ready to come home. So,
yeah, I didn't like that.
I guess at this point I'm married. I've got a kid already, so maybe there's more accomplishment there. So it was a little bit easier to take that step, because I could take her with me. So, we talked, we prayed, and the door opened. I mean, basically, she started putting her resume in down there as a nurse, because, we figured she'd be the first to get a job, and then I could get one when I get there, because she's a nurse, and there's always opportunities for nurses. So, and actually, at that point, I was hoping to get in a church or something when I went, but it didn't work out that way. But a whole lot happened after that. But so August 10th, 2012, we moved to Jackson, Tennessee, and there we were. We're like, okay, we're here. So I remember that was on like a Friday, I believe. 3 days later, when I went to class, I was like, man, that's a lot nicer. It was like a 10-minute drive to class. Shot there,
Probably
shot
wasn't even
home.
that, was it? You guys lived.
It was like, well, depending on traffic down there, it was about
pretty
10,
close, yeah.
10 minutes, 15, just depending on the traffic.
Well, let's hold up there for a moment.
I'm talking a lot. Sorry.
And well, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, but so while he was down there, or while he was moving down there, I guess God had kind of started to show me what direction I was going to go in. And while he was down there, I guess in Tennessee, God had started to begin to work in me and show me some things about, I guess, I think that I've got everything down already, and I know a lot of stuff, at my church, as I stepped into more of a leadership role, and God started to get under the pastor there, Pastor Mark. Shout out to Pastor Mark. Pastor Mark taught me a whole lot of things, but I want to back up just 1 or 2 steps. Pastor Terry, which was the senior pastor before Pastor Mark, used to come up to me all the time and would tell me, or he would ask me, as I was leaving the church, he'd catch me almost every Sunday, and he'd go, you got a call in your life, don't you? And then the next Sunday, you got a call in your life, don't you? And then the next Sunday, over and over again. To the point, Pastor Terry. To where I was like, well, I guess I used to have a call in my life, but, So as I looked back at that, I started to realize that somebody else had seen something in me. And I know I think Pastor Mark had had too, because there was a point. They came to a point in time where they ordained me, which was, to me, was a huge. To think that the two people that I look up to the most have seen something in me, it really meant a whole lot to me. But as he was down there and I stayed here, because I'm not the type of person to just, I go on vacation and I'm gone for a week. I am dying to get back home. I don't move too far away, from home. I don't go too far. So I began to move into, I guess, a learning stage in my life where I was I guess God was showing me what my ministry was going to be, what my relationship with my church was going to be, and I began to learn a lot of things. I guess I've always likened it to, I was really learning how to be a pastor, learning how to be a minister, learning how to do things that I never done before. Because with our ministry, we'd get up, we'd preach, we'd do some shows, and we'd go home.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a whole lot more.
Perfect.
It was easy. But
then God had to go and mess that up. No, I'm just kidding.
When you're in a church and you have a home church and God's called you to be a leader in that church. I'm not the pastor. That's Pastor Mark's church, but I'm under his leadership, and you're working with the young adults and working with the youth, and God begins to show me some things that I don't know as well as I thought I did. And there was a lot of times there that I really had to, when I thought I knew something and I had to stand in correction, it was hard for me to stand in correction at times. I had to go home and pray about it and get mad about it, and then listen to God and be like, oh man, I was wrong. So that was a huge learning experience for me, learning how, and and as hard as this is to say, and maybe as silly as this sounds, I had to really learn how to love people. Because you may think that it's the easiest thing in the world to love people, but I had to learn how to love people in a way that I think I've never. I mean, it was hard for me to learn how to do that, to be somebody that wasn't just I'm here doing a concert, we get you saved or whatever, and now we're gone. Kind of like the evangelist lifestyle. They're in and they blow out. And now I'm here for good, and these I have young adults and kids or whatever that look up to me and are looking, I'm a role model to them or whatever, and now they're looking to me, and now I'm learning how to do all these things. So as he's down there, I'm back here basically learning how to do the ministry God's calling me to do. And one of the main parts of that ministry, I guess, is I've been able to come in under our pastor, and whenever, pastors need breaks. I've been able to step in to the pulpit and give the pastor a break or whatever, and just be able to do different things there. So I've really enjoyed doing that, and I'm so thankful for everything that I've learned, and I'm continuing to still learn and looking forward to what's coming next. So that's really where I was at, and the things that I was going through and the things that I learned. I guess pretty much the whole time you were down there, God was working on me here, basically growing me, maturing me,
which is what was happening to me down there. But we can hit on that next time or something. But that is another thing I forgot happened. It was like September 19th, 2010. I got ordained through the Rock. We had both been licensed when we were doing youth pastors for the Baptist churches.
Baptist church, yeah.
And then the next phase happened. There was an ordination. Now of course with the church that I'm launching, I'll get ordained again through that ministry. Not that you ever lose your first ordination, but this guy got to sign my certificate, so
you're welcome.
So, because he's on our board over at our church as well, so he kind of signed the certificate, because I had someone from the board sign it. And since the vice president doesn't get to sign a whole lot of papers, I said we're going to let him sign.
That's amazing. You think the vice president would be like this big important guy, but really it's just.
You're more of my, I guess, sidekick. I don't know what you say. That's not the best word for it, but like partner in the whole deal, like counsel.
According to your paperwork, I am your main advisor or something like that.
He's an advisor. Well, actually, he's an advisor. Then I've got the accountability board, which are advisors. You always need people around you that are advising you. You should never be at some point, and I think it's as important, especially for young ministers out there who may be listening, you should have a mentor. You should have somebody that's guiding you on your journey. You should always have someone that you're accountable to. So I've got him on the regular board. I've got the accountability board. There's 3 of them. I picked some minister friends of mine. I shoot advice past them when needed. So you always need to have that accountability, especially if you're trying to jump into ministry. So I want to go ahead and say that because that's something we didn't know at first when we started ministry. So, which we was trying to get people to help us, but nobody seemed to want to help at that point. So, but later got open doors, and
a lot of stuff we just did on our own, you know, and that all fell back to just being wanting to do something, just get out there. We're tired of sitting around and not doing anything. So,
and I hope what I just said doesn't turn
too, so.
Like someone looking at that and say, well, fine, I just give up then. I ain't going to mess with it if I got to have someone telling me what to do. No. That's not what that is.
You know what? To me, the best thing you can do, especially if you're young, is to make sure that you have a good home church and to talk to your pastor or pastors, whatever you have there, and get in under that authority. Because you need to have an authority over you. Everybody does. Mm-hmm. You know, you need to have a mentor. It's just everybody needs to have that, because if you don't, you have no one to go to. You have no one to talk to, except someone that may not know what you're going through. So you need to have, it's the best thing to do is to get into a church where you have that authority over you, and you can bring it to them, and you can say, "Am I right? Am I wrong? Where, show me in the scripture. Show me something. Teach me something."
So. And besides accountability, it can get lonely at the top if you got no one to be able to bounce your feelings. Let's just say humans, we have feelings. We go through emotions just like everybody else. So, I mean, we deal with the stress of everyday life. And it's always nice. And, several church planter people, they'll say, you want that circle of pastors around you that you can bounce thoughts off of, because they're going through the same thing. You just don't know it. So
it's a good way to get rid of that "I'm always right" mentality too. That you think that I can do no wrong, or your ministry is going to be this huge, great, wonderful thing because you've built it up in your head, but yet you have no idea what you're going to do. You have no authority over you. You have no one to go to when things do go south, because things will go south. Nothing's going to be perfect 100% of the time. So have somebody to go to. Have somebody you trust. Yeah. And for me, that's one of the things that I had to learn, in my church, was to get under that authority and under that leadership, and to learn from their experiences and let them teach you. There's nothing wrong with that. You've just got to humble yourself and realize you don't know everything yet. Mm-hmm. And you may know some things. Some things you may know more than other people. Like, you may be better in one subject than somebody is in another subject, but that doesn't mean that life experience and someone that's been a pastor longer and you can't teach you things about being a pastor, because they sure can.
And I had a mentor in Tennessee, and a lot. Actually, I could say I had more than one. They taught me a lot down there. So, I mean, that's important. I just want to throw that out there. We'll talk more about that next time, but because there was stuff going on in Tennessee while I was there, while he was here doing stuff he was talking about as well. A lot of things were happening. So
we'll get into that next week, I guess. And there might be a video in between this video. I'm wanting to do a video with my family. I think I was talking about that last time. That's coming. And hopefully maybe in the next 2 weeks you'll get to see that video. We'll just have to wait and see. But so make sure and subscribe to Give 'Em Truth Ministries on YouTube. And please do me a favor, share this video on your Facebook page. If you're watching it, just watch it all the way through and then share it real quick. It won't take 3 seconds. Just share it on your Facebook page. Make sure you like it, subscribe, and hit the bell, get all the notifications, and make sure you check out Let's Talk on YouTube as well. It's if you don't know what it is, it's a show with Trenton and myself. And basically, we're just digging into the scriptures, getting into it, talking about the Bible. And you know what? We joke around a little bit. We get serious a little bit. And we just kind of have a good time learning the scriptures. It's really informal, but it's a lot of fun. And I think we learn a whole lot as we go, when we bounce things off you guys and off each other. So make sure and check that out. And I'm going to let him give the email address, because I have forgotten it. So go ahead.
Talking about
for the Let's Talk.
Let's Talk. The email is...
Let's
talk at gmail.com.
Maybe I did know it and he didn't.
Had to think about it. It's like he put me on the spot for a second. Also, go subscribe to Next Level Freedom Church. We have a YouTube page as well if you want to go subscribe to that. Right now, our 2 biggest shows we got going on are the Unified series, which I only put up as I get them. They're not a weekly thing. The Bible study series, we're going through the book of Mark right now, and I actually didn't get one up last week, so I'm going to look at getting another one up this week. So y'all go check that out if you're just wanting to dig into the Bible a little bit. Maybe you need to discipline yourself to some Bible study time. And that is really the purpose of the show. God said, hey, you got a lot of people out here that want to study the Bible that just don't know how. So lead a Bible study for them. So that's the whole purpose of Through the Book. So if you want to check that out, that'll help you. It helps me with Bible study time because I study to go to the show. So it helps me in our Bible study time as well. So appreciate y'all listening. I mean,
That's
turn it
it.
back over to the host of the show.
All right, that's
right
it.
here.
Until next time, thank y'all for continually tuning into the show. And like I said, please, I want to get more views. I want to get more subscribers. Not for myself, not for Trenton, but just to get the message out there and get the gospel out there. So until next time, get out there and give them the truth.